Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. I warmly welcome all of you to this conference on Puranas and Indic knowledge systems. We at Indic Academy have been, over the last few years, holding conferences and seminars on some very unique topics, some pioneering topics. We have held a conference on yatras, conference on oneness, a conference on Vedic mindfulness, a conference on indigenous sustainability, a conference on rituals. So you can see that there is a emerging pattern of exploring new areas for scholars to express their views about. This has largely been facilitated by the presence of Sri Nagaraj as a director of Indic Academy. I'm very, very grateful to him for curating all these conferences. I will not talk too much about Indic Academy and what it has actually achieved in the last 6 years. We have now completed, we will be completing 6 years on the 2nd of April. All our activities are on our website and the social media. So I will not bore you and take your time on what we have done. But I would like to share a few thoughts on where we are heading. We are redefined ourselves as an institute for global indigenous knowledge. We started with Indic knowledge systems, but now we have morphed ourselves into global indigenous knowledge. And we have recently established a center for polytheist and indigenous traditions, global polytheist and indigenous traditions. And we are now seeking to build a renaissance of not just an Indic renaissance, but a global indigenous wisdom. We now have 6 centers, thought centers. We have, in this current year, we have established a center for Indic studies in law and justice. We have established a center for consciousness studies and inner transformation, a center for cultural leadership, a center for indigenous sustainability, and the latest center, Center for Global Polytheist and Indigenous Traditions. We are actually trying to act as a hub, as a hub for Indic and indigenous knowledge. And by acting as this hub, we are trying to build bridges. We're trying to build a bridge between the Gurukulams and the universities, between Shastras, Indic knowledge systems, and Indology, between disciplines, between global indigenous knowledge, and between civilizations. This is what we are trying to do. And in that process, we have a strategy, an approach, a very unique approach that we have, a proprietary approach, a unique approach that we have formulated called the 6-dimensional approach, where we are trying to preserve, protect, and promote intellectual, cultural, and spiritual with a planning which is near-term, medium-term, long-term, transforming the individual at the individual level from a selfless and strategy, foster an ecosystem through a connect, contribute, and collaborate strategy. And finally, looking at the customer by offering the customer our knowledge and thinking about it from a concept of offering authentic, immersive, and transformative knowledge, either as a product, service, or an experience. And this is an approach that has evolved, has developed over a period of last 6 years. We also want to scale up. We are sort of an anti-campus kind of a institution, in the sense that we are not envisaging that we'll have a large campus with thousands of students. But what we are trying to do is trying to take a distributed campus approach. One, we are trying to look at campus centers in existing universities, the Center for Indic Studies in existing universities, whether it's in India or abroad. So there's a campus centers in universities. Then we are also now actively talking to 2 gurukulams where we are trying to set up a campus center in the gurukulam itself, wherein we will be constructing rooms for the scholars to come and say a small office, but the scholars from world over can come, live there, and engage with the students of the Gurukulam, teach them what they know, and learn from the Gurukulam students what they don't know. Because we see a lot of scholars from the West who try to pontificate about our culture without coming and living our culture. So and then they say that we don't know what is happening. So this would be a good opportunity for them to come and live here, experience, and then talk about our culture. So this is the campus centers at Gurukulams. Now we are moved to a new scheme where we are saying campus centers near the Guru. So where we are saying that we can asking the Guru, saying that please take a house close by to your residence and invite students, and that would be a campus centers next to the Guru's house. So a campus center with the Guru, campus center in the Gurukulam, campus centers in the universities. This is how we are trying to scale up. Of course, we have also started the online platform where we are trying to reach out to the students online. We have about 25 courses. We are expanding it. So that is the other way we are trying to grow. One thing that this COVID pandemic has done is that it has completely changed the way we are all learning. And we have already experienced that. I need not emphasize the penetration of Zoom into our lives. But if you take a principle and if you take a step back, what is happening is that there's a disintermediation that is happening of the educational institutions. We have the scholar who used to depend upon the educational institution to reach out to his students. This disintermediation is happening wherein the educational institution, as we know, itself is becoming irrelevant. The infrastructure is becoming irrelevant. So therefore, you have the scholar and the student, and there's technology. And this is what we need to understand, the biggest trend that has happened because of this pandemic. Now, for any institution, for any individual, one has to think of their competencies in 3 buckets. One, an innovation bucket, knowledge bucket. The second is an infrastructure or the execution bucket. And the third is the customer and the customer relationship. So any company, core competencies of these companies are in these 3 buckets: innovation, delivery, infrastructure, manufacturing, delivery, and the customer. This is how you have to think. If you transpose the same concept to the scholar and ask, a scholar, what is his core competence? Scholar's core competence would be that he is in the innovation space. Not so much in the delivery space, not so much in the relationship space. Some of the scholars we know, we interact, all good friends of us were all like that Gambiram, Sharada, that Shankarabaranam, Shankar Shastri kind of scholars. They're not good in relationship, but very, very good in innovation, knowledge. Now, I appeal to all of you to think of this framework. And I would like to invite you to think of yourself as a university. You do not need any physical infrastructure, any institution. Think of yourself as a university. You can reach the customer directly. I want you to think that there is this famous, very, very popular organization started called Ekal Vishvavidyaalay. You all know about the success story of this organization. I think they are present in more than 1 lakh villages. They have impacted 30 million children. And it's a success story of a grassroots movement, people's movement. That's their tagline, Ekal Vishvavidyaalay. You can check it out. It's one of those extraordinary things wherein they talk about Ek Shikshak and Ek Vidyalay. That means one teacher schools in all these places. I want you to learn from this example and think of Ekal Vishvavidyaalay. Think of you are a university, a one teacher university, and think that you are the co-founder for that university. You don't need the infrastructure, you don't need the technology, you don't need anything else. Just think of yourself as a university, Ekal Vishvavidyaalay. Please change your biodata. Please change your on your Twitter, social media, wherever your biodata, say co-founder Ekal Vishvavidyaalay. Because your time has come now. As scholars, everything else is disintermediated. You can reach out. You can plan in the next 20 years. You can plan to reach out 1,000 students and transform them and use your knowledge. This, to me, is a very, very positive development of the last 1 year of crisis that we have faced. And as Indic Academy is always talking about campus centers is universities, campus centers in Gurukulams, campus centers next to a guru. With these few thoughts, I would like to say that I desire that Indic Academy establishes a campus center in your brain. From a Karana, Sukshma, Sthula. So Sthula is gone, the gross is gone. Think of the campus center in your intellect. So with these few words, I very, very warmly welcome you to this conference, an excellent conference. We had a phenomenal response, more than 30 speakers. And I'm sure we would be very, very, it would be a very insightful deliberations for the next 2 days. Thank you very much. Welcome.